Ooh, we got the little. I have not seen a lot of the Avatar Korra. I just watched the first one. Um, what's the little? What is that a red panda?
Yes, it is.
Oh my
Very nice
gosh!
character from the show.
Oh my gosh! My I took my wife to the zoo and we visited the red pandas 3 times. She loves the red pandas. All right, so yeah, tell me a little bit about your study routines.
Yeah, sure. So I started playing in November after I watched the AlphaGo documentary. I'm very excited about Go. And first, I just played a whole bunch of 9x9 games to get a sense of things.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been reading a couple books. I read like an introductory book, and then I've been reading Kim's books, and I'm on volume 3 there
Mm-hmm.
to learn the very basics that way. I watched your series on the Clossi approach, and since then I've been kind of trying to focus on playing, I guess, more defensively than I had been, and just trying to really take note every turn of my weaknesses, because that is one thing that kind of hurts me in games often, is I'll miss a cutting point that's bad,
Mm-hmm.
or even miss an target sometimes. I've been doing that, and I also recently got the lessons in the fundamentals of Go,
Ooh, good
and
book.
then yeah, and that inspired me to work on reading a little bit. I kind of had like a little bit of a despairing feeling about reading. Like I try
Mm-hmm.
to read a few moves ahead and then I just get lost.
Mm-hmm.
But since reading the first chapter of that book, I've been working on just pushing myself to try to read out every situation as much as I can. I did like exercises in the book where you read like really big ladders, one stone at a time. So that's something I've been doing this past week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's
Um,
great. Do you do Go problems?
yes, I do. Yeah, I do like a few of them every day. Just probably like an average 10 minutes a day or something.
Okay, that's good. That's really good. Um, yeah, that sounds great. So those are all very good books. Fundamentals is great. Janice Kim's great.
Good.
You're playing games. What's the ELO test?
Oh yeah. So I was playing 9x9 games almost
Hmm.
exclusively until like a week and a half ago or so when I was interested in doing lessons, and then I kind of was motivated by our conversation to move up. I've been playing 9x9 games maybe too
Hmm.
much, so just moved on to 13x13, and then to kind of get a feel for 19x19, I played a whole bunch of games with an AI,
Hmm.
um, and that's all those ELO tests there. So
Okay.
it's like it adjusts to your level. So played a bunch of games, and then I've played 2 games with real people in 19x19, which are the most recent ones.
Okay. Awesome. Um, yeah, awesome. That sounds great. Have you watched my beginner lecture series to the 19 by 19?
Not for the 19x19. No, I watched the Clossi approach for 25Q.
Right. We're working on getting that one to 19 by 19, but I do have a beginner lecture series. I will
Okay.
link that in Twitch chat. I'll also send it to you on Discord. This is what I made for introducing beginners to the 19 by 19. So
Okay.
it's kind of just more information. Um, so let's see. Let's go ahead and do you have a preference of which one we look at?
Either of those most recent ones would be good.
Okay, so let's look at Masura Kabira.
Good.
Review this game.
Review started.
Do you need a link?
No, I'm watching on Twitch.
Twitch will have a delay.
Oh, okay.
Since you're in the Discord call, I'll just give you a link.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, that way you can respond in real time to questions.
Sounds good.
Is this a misclick?
Oh yeah. So that was a mistake.
It's like, okay, lesson one. The edges are not good.
Not a good answer. Yeah. So they were nice and they went somewhere else. But I started off at a little bit of a disadvantage here anyway
Okay.
by going to them.
Okay, so yeah, open corners, open sides. I usually recommend third line unless you have support on both sides. It just makes it a little bit
Okay.
easier. This isn't a bad move by any means.
Mm-hmm.
It's just it's just easier. You want to set variations up that are easier for yourself to use.
Okay.
So yeah, this kind of idea. So with the start point, well, actually, while you're learning, I would say learning closures and approaches as well as
Mm-hmm.
extensions. Don't just only play extensions. You want to learn the
Mm-hmm.
other stuff too. So 3-3, Joseki. So this one, if he's going to let you out, go ahead and go out.
Okay.
So the Joseki is here, here, like that.
Right.
But if he goes here, then you still go here. So that way you don't get surrounded. Because remember, the Clossi approach is bases and then run away. So don't get surrounded. So this is just basically don't get surrounded.
Okay.
But it's,
Here, if he goes to S6 there, then is that group in serious trouble?
yeah, I believe this is the little pig, if I'm not mistaken. I may be wrong. Let me double check. I don't want to tell you wrong. I don't want to tell you wrong.
Sure.
Uh,
That's one thing
I should know this. I don't know why I don't know this.
Oh, no problem. That's one thing I have been kind of struggling on is recognizing when I need to defend a group in a corner, whether it has enough.
I think I'm one line off. I think I'm one line off. I was maybe not the little pig, but it's got some questions.
Little cow.
Yeah, it's got some questions about it. It's not ideal. It's not ideal. It's too complex for an 18 Q's life and death, but it's not comfortable. You want to escape here. Mm-hmm. Okay, so he kicked you no bead. That's actually really good. And then you approach. This is all fine so far. Okay, so here you're at largest framework because we're in middle game now. So first off, defense. Second off, let's see, largest framework. It could be white or blacks, honestly. It's kind of divided. So if it's even, then I would just build yours while reducing. So maybe a 1-point jump here or a 1-point jump here is all fine. All right, so you start living. Okay. So before you play a Hane to escape, if you can Nobi escape, just Nobi escape.
Okay. Nobi just means
hey, positive.
An extension when
yeah.
Not
just move forward, gain like 2 liberties.
Okay. Yeah, I thought that extension didn't seem that valuable, but I was just getting a little scared about that group. And
yeah, the life and death is questionable. So my advice for when you want to build the largest framework, if it's yours, is stick to learn the basic shapes first, and then you can learn the other stuff later. So the basic shapes that I like to recommend is 1-point jumps, capping moves, and shoulder hits.
Okay.
Those are the ones that I would recommend you learn first. Then you can start learning like 2-space jumps, like over here or whatever. But 2-space jumps, moving out with 2-space jumps are a little bit complex because there's a lot of Aji for cutting, and they're more about Sabaki, which is like a single-digit Q level tactic. So I recommend 1-point jumps for this level. So 1-point jumps, caps, shoulder hits. And when you're looking at the framework, so when you're looking at this framework, try to build a sort of a bowl. So you take the whole thing, you build it up like a bowl. Think of something that holds water. And you wouldn't build one edge without building the other edge, because then the water just goes out. So really try to think about that bowl shape.
Okay.
So instead of building like this, you'd want to build like that. Build on the edges of the bowl. So another way to think about it is draw the line of the influence. You want to bring this line up. You want to make that line bigger. Okay. And just make it bigger. And the idea isn't to get more points. It's to get more control of an area and force your opponent to come in so you can make a positive exchange rate. So that's the idea. So this one isn't bad. It's maybe not ideal, but we don't really care about perfect moves at this level. But it is a little bit of a sketchy shape. So strong shapes will lead to easier problems to solve, and the easier the game is for us, the stronger our game will be. But because difficult shapes will lead to confusing situations, which can lead to mistakes, and we want to reduce the amount of mistakes we make. Mm-hmm. So here, yep. You could choose a double Hane here. Have you seen my Joseki video?
Yes.
Okay, so this one is very simple. You just get the outside, give up the outside for the corner. The reason I kind of like it is because if you can get off an attack here, you get a lot of territory, and again, it's a positive exchange rate. Boom, boom, right? Very simple to play. We just want for simple stuff. And if he goes here, you just block, no big deal, and then you surround to make another area. So easy stuff, and that's what we want, just the easy stuff. This is fine too. I'm just showing you more options.
Yeah. Sure. Would that other one be especially good given that I have the white stone down below, or is there like how would this position kind of
yeah, this one helps attack the Panuki here, so it kind of helps. but honestly, it's more just about making positive exchange rates. Combinations isn't really that important at this level. It's more about making sure everything has a positive exchange rate, and you're looking at the big picture. Combinations are more about single digit Q to make sure all the stones are working together really nicely. So this one, it's not like it's bad because we're just focused on are you playing defense and are you playing big moves. That's kind of what it is until like 16Q, 15Q, and then you add on attacking. So as long as you're playing defense and big moves, it's good. So yeah, again, this one is good. You're making points. I think jumping here would be nice, or maybe a shoulder hit here would be nice, or some sort of cap. This is a cap and a shoulder hit, so it's kind of nice.
Okay.
Just build up that bowl. But this one's, again, not bad. It's positive value. You are getting positive value, so it's okay. Just maybe make it a little bit bigger. All right, so who goes in? So now Black's bowl is getting a little bit bigger than White's because White's bowl is only this. And because you've pretty much almost sealed it, it's getting to the point where maybe Black's is bigger. So maybe we want to go deal with that. So first off, we can just come under. It's just gone. So we can just walk in. We can also reduce on the line of the Moyo, like here, or maybe a shoulder hit. So cap moves, shoulder hits. And then this is the response. The life and death is here.
Okay, I did T5 instead.
Yeah. The problem with T5, this is a shape you want to avoid, is because you give them one more Sente move, and that loses you potential to reduce.
Yeah, okay. So if I play one, do I end up with Sente after the...
No, because Black sometimes can still just ignore, but you want him, if he wants this point, you want that point to be Gote for Black. If you can. Okay. So this is a common, mistake. It's just a couple points, so it's not the end of the world, but it's a common double-digit Q mistake where you don't play this connection, simply because you lose a couple points. I want to play this one. The life and death shape is a much easier.
Yeah.
Try to go for tiger's mouths if you can, and this almost leads to tiger's mouths. The empty triangles are kind of deadly if you're not careful, so you got to be careful with empty triangles. But it's okay. It's not the end of the world. You're still alive, so still okay. Again, another 2 space jump. 1 space jump would be a little bit easier, and also largest framework is probably Black's-ish. Yeah. So maybe invade, reduce, something along those lines. That's kind of what we're just thinking about. So he's reducing you. So, okay, so you blocked. This is okay. We're kind of splitting the board down the middle. When both players are getting something, someone is wrong. Because if both players get something, usually one's bigger than the other. So one of you guys are wrong if both players are getting something. So you got to figure out who's right, who's wrong. This one. It looks like White's is bigger, simply because if you divide the board down the center, you can see White's going into Black's. However, Black has broken out here and you haven't broken out here. Yeah. So that's another thing to think about. So just looking at shapes like that is a good way to calculate.
Okay.
Okay, so now we're at Yosei. Now the hint for Yosei is when you divide up these corner quadrants into the 4 boxes. Is there any box that isn't really finished or opened or anything like that? Any frameworks that haven't, any open areas to build or make a framework?
I would think the top right one.
The top right one, Black has a framework here, and White's kind of pushing it in. So there already is a framework. All that's left is pushing the framework, right?
Right.
Okay. When it's just pushing the framework that's left. When there is a framework, then and you're looking at pushing it, that's pushing the borders. That means we're in Yosei. So if there's no empty quarter of the board or quarter quadrant, then that's our hint that we're in Yosei. So now we apply our Yosei basics. Our Yosei basics is second line Sentei, then first line Sentei, and then push the border in Sentei, and then play a big move. Right. So that's our Yosei basics. Okay. Second line Sentei, first line Sentei, push the border in Sentei, and then play a big move.
Right. But we're not in Yosei yet, is that right?
You are in Yosei, because you see how both you're pushing the borders right here? That's Yosei tactics. Okay, so that's big. He plays. Tiger's Mouth here when you want this Hane to be Gote.
Okay.
Ooh, missed the Natari.
What happened there? Oh, yeah, that's right. Yep, missed that one.
Yeah, missed the Natari. That'll come with experience, though. So this Hane, if he blocks, you have a cut, and you have to fix, right? So it's Gote, but the Nobi is Sentei.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the Nobi's Sentei. So you want Sentei and Yosei. In Yosei, it's all about the Sentei. It's all about the Sentei. Actually. Life. Don't worry about that. That one's unnecessary. Okay, be wary of this shape. Be wary of a double Hane to the edge.
Right. Yeah, I thought twice about that.
Because there's a Ko. Yeah. A little bit dangerous, so you have to back off once and then Hane.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay. Okay, not bad. Does this cut work?
Let's see. I don't think so. I think it turns into a ladder.
Mm-hmm. Just a ladder or a net.
Okay. Oh, right. Yeah. That's fine.
Yeah.
Oh, so I didn't need to block.
Yeah, you didn't need to block. Okay. Is this one okay?
Same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one's also okay.
Yeah, so this is another kind of interesting thing is at double digit Q, when you're finishing up the liberties on the borders, cutting points will sometimes activate. So there's kind of like two important lessons here. One, you don't fix cuts that don't work. And two, you always read the cuts at the end, because sometimes when you play Dame, these cuts will activate, and you have to be very careful with them. So you have to start... don't assume the cut works, because then you just lose points. But a good hint or a good thing to start practicing is when you're filling in the edges, watch the cutting points, because sometimes that'll cost you a game right at the very end. And it will take losing a couple games before you get that idea down. But that is a good way to lose a game right at the end, is those cutting points.
Yeah. So try to read them every time.
Yes, always read the cutting points. That's our basics from the 20 Qs. You want to make reading cutting points something you can do in like a second, because you want to read cuts every single time, and then you want to just do it like thousands of times until you can just read it in like a second. And you won't do that until you do it one time at a time. Like you read one cut, then you read two cuts, then you read three cuts. Years later, you've read thousands of cuts. Even in a year, you could probably read like hundreds of cuts just by playing Go for 1 year. As long as you read every single cut, you will read hundreds of cuts. So yeah, just lots of shapes. I think the only thing I would take from this game is don't over-defend cuts and learn about 1-point jumps instead of 2-point jumps, and get that bowl idea down. But again, this is actually pretty good for just getting on to 1919. Let me actually make a note. So watch the beginner lecture series. 1-point jumps are safer than 2-point jumps. Make a bowl with the moyo. Learn about shoulder hits and capping moves. Don't over defend cutting points. So actually, I'm quite impressed with what I've seen so far. There's still a lot to learn, right? But considering you said you just started on the 1919, I think you're off to a really good start. So I really like what I've seen so far. But I do recommend getting a lot of experience because as a 18Q or as a beginner or whatever, your biggest weakness is experience.
Right.
You need hundreds and then thousands of games. And you need each of those games to be a lesson for you. You need to learn at least one thing from 1,000 games. And it's going to take one day at a time, one game at a time. But you can do it, but that's going to be your biggest enemy so far at the start. So giving yourself direction, some like the Clossi approach and stuff like that, watching those videos, reading those books, that's all super, super useful. That way you're not just kind of flailing about in a random direction. You're actually starting off with a direction. Because Go, you can go almost infinite directions. You need some sort of direction to start, and then practice. And then game reviews help as well. So yeah, I think this is off to a really good start. But I wanna like encourage you that you're doing well, but I want you to keep doing better because we can still improve. So there's still a lot to improve, but you're off to a good start. So yeah, open corners, open sides, a largest framework. Just keep working on that idea. Until you get to 16Q, you don't really need to learn how to attack your opponent, with the exception being when your opponent comes into your area, then learn how to just unsettle and surround, and then learn how to make profit from that. As long as you can do that's pretty much the only attacking that you do from 19Q to 16Q. You don't really worry about taking their base or anything like that. You worry about making sure that your groups make a base, your groups don't get surrounded, and then you play the big moves and not over defend. That's how you get to 16Q. It's just those lessons right there. And I'll actually make another note of that. To get to 16K, we just need defense, bases, bases, cutting points, don't get surrounded. Okay, and big moves. This is going to be open corners, open sides, largest framework. Now, the idea of the lessons is mostly to give you clarification on the definitions of the Clossi approach. So watching the videos and getting your games reviewed and stuff, that's all kind of like good stuff and good direction. But the way we use the lessons is we pretty much clarify definitions and ideas, and then pretty much pick one that you're struggling with and have you focus on that one. Like to clarify how it works and then have you focus on that one. So every lesson, we're pretty much trying to like pick one or two things for you to work on. And I give you a bunch of notes, but I think the big thing that I'm seeing so far is defense and big moves. You are starting off really well, but we want to keep focusing on those ideas. Don't worry about attacking except when they come in your own area. And I think that'll get you off to a good start. And then we'll see where we're at like by next time, or until you get to single digit queue. And of course, take advantage of like game reviews and everything like that.
Okay.
On stream. All right, so let's go ahead and look at the next one.
Sure.
Okay, this is against Nectru.
Started.
Yeah.
Okay, and there's the link.
Thank you.
All right. So you are white, open corners. Okay. Avoid this 3-4 point as white because you want them to approach the side, the Sapta Shamari, from the side where they don't have support. If you play here, they can approach with support. So it's just it's not good fighting spirit, is the way the agents put it, I guess. And they say this is we call this like losing on the second move or losing on the fourth move, is when you play a move that allows your opponent to approach with support. It's bad fighting spirit, so it's basically just you lose the game from the start. It's not literally lose the game, but it's not good. So you don't want to play this 3-4 point. Yeah. Okay, you made your base. So at this point, white has 2 ways to make the base, and you've already surrounded some space. So you're actually pretty okay, and we're just thinking defense. So defense-wise, you're pretty good. If you want one more, I guess you can, but 1 stone jumps 2, and maybe you want on the 3rd line. I guess 4th line, if you have support on both sides, is fine. But usually you want the base on the 3rd line, but this one's okay too.
Simply, this power would be good because it's also a big side thing.
Yes, but the bottom and right side are both empty, so they're bigger than the left.
Sure, yeah.
So the only reason we would play on the left is if we're playing defense. Defense or offense, but there's nothing to attack, so just defense. Yeah. Otherwise, we would want to play a big move, like here, or here, or here, or whatever.
Yeah, gotcha.
Okay, so one thing you want to avoid until later is a 3-space extension for a base, because this is technically invadable, and you will have to learn how to deal with these. But the follow-ups for this are probably single-digit Q and a little bit reading intensive. So I advise you to wait for 3-space jumps until single-digit Q, because they're a little complex.
Yeah, I would definitely get nervous when black
played. A little bit complex. There's a lot to read. Yeah. So yeah, just avoid 1 stone jumps 3. If you have 2 stones, that does jump 3, because that one you surround and you see how it runs into that 2nd stone. Yeah. So 2 stones jumps 3, 1 stone jumps 2. Okay. Okay. So now bottom or right, good. If you want to play this one, this is not quite double-digit Q, but the variation is more along these lines. This is a little bit of an outdated shape, but perfectly fine at the amateur level. It's just the AI doesn't like it, but this was played before AlphaGo, so it's a very, very common and easy to use shape and lots of variations. But this is, again, 1 stone jumps 3. So the reason I'm not a big fan of it for this level is simply because it leads to that result of 1 stone jumps 3. So even if it's a good position, it's not really one of our beginner positions. So if you wanted to extend, I would play low. It's just a little bit easier to use, or approach or enclose. Because playing this one does give you a lot more influence, but it's a little more difficult to use, and I prefer making the game easier for myself. Sure. So I would just not worry about this one for now, because unless you have support on this stone, and that leads to the Sanrense, of course. But without the support, this one's a little more complicated to use. Not a bad move, but like just more complicated. All right, so when they approaches a 4th line stone like this, technically you're supposed to kick and then jump.
Okay.
That builds the area. If you don't, if you just play a big move or whatever, he can slide under and steal your points, and he can also invade and attack your stone. So it's a little bit dangerous to not respond when he approaches a single stone. Okay. It's kind of like approaching a corner and then you ignore, and you don't want to get attacked. So it lets him destroy this area while attacking. So it's a little bit annoying. So we prefer to just respond. Okay. The basic that this applies to is you got the stone right here, the marked stone, is now next to the opposite color. So you have to ask, okay, if my stone is next to my opponent's stones, do I have a base? And the answer is no. You don't have any ice space yet. So you have to make ice space. So maybe you'd start, making ice space. Okay? And that would be kind of beginner. And that's fine. But a higher level, you just say, okay, I'm just going to control this framework to make it difficult for them to come in and attack my base. And that's also fine. So it's just the idea of I'm playing defense when they approach my stone. Okay, so you played 3-3. This is perfectly fine. Okay, Joseki, block your base. Bull crap! At 19Q knows it's Joseki. he studies the AI too much. There we go. That's an unnecessary move. There we go. He knew that a little too well, I think.
Yeah.
Okay. Have you seen my Joseki video?
Yes.
Okay. Technically, this is the move. The reason is you don't want this block to be Sente, and this Hane is good for black. Black getting this Tiger's Mouth is actually really powerful. It's it used to be very common, like that.
Yeah.
That was the old Joseki shape, but the AI told us that this Tiger's Mouth is good for black, so we decided to. So it changed, and now we don't do that exchange anymore. Now we just Nobi down or something, or just extend. And that's simple, and then we just do Nikki, and that way we don't have that Tiger's Mouth, which makes black's position more difficult to invade or whatever. So it's a little bit of a good exchange for your opponent to make that Hane. Here you do need to play here because you don't want him to be able to block you in Sente. Okay. And yeah,
Can we go back a second to where I played Q18?
Okay.
So good. Is S14 an important move right now?
No, this is a good exchange for black, so there's no reason for black not to play it.
No, right. I'm saying, so as a white, is it really important? I know next time I'm not going to do Q18.
Yeah.
Is it really important that I do S14?
Yes, S14 is important.
Okay.
Because if you don't, the life and death in here is a little complex.
Yeah.
And that's just dead. Actually, I think you might just be dead. You might just be dead. I might have been overthinking it I was like looking at this crap and I was like, I'm overthinking this, aren't I? Yeah, you might just be dead.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, that's not good. But then you have that, which leads to a ko. Yeah, it's just unnecessary. Just do this, end your life. Okay. If you get into complex, you can extend one more, and this is actually very easy life.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a very easy life.
Should I be worried about black getting a big line of stones like that at this level?
Yeah, pushing from behind and giving your opponent a line of stones is very, very good for them. So you don't want to just do that. That is very good for black. But if you have to play it for defense, you have to play it for defense. So you go until you don't have to anymore, and you stop. So you want to stop as soon as you can. So I say that you can go 3 because it makes the life and death easy to handle. But eventually you would want to maybe stop here and then get the timing down for when you do either this move or this move for life. But technically you're alive. You can't be killed. So technically you could stop here. It's just black has a lot of forcing moves. So in order to make it simple, I'm like, if you do this as a double digit queue, if you play 3, because even I would play 3 sometimes. I just don't want to deal with it. This is technically good for black, but I mean, it's easier life and death, and you still get Sente. So it's okay. But don't push any more than that. Pushing more than that is just making black even stronger. So it's technically a negative exchange rate, so it's not good if you can help it. Yeah, and this is again 2 space jump. So yeah, 1 space jump. A diagonal would be nice here, but technically a kick and jump would be probably the beginner shape. Okay, you can ignore this. You can do that, and then let's see, cap. Unnecessary. You want to build. So here's the line of the influence. So you want to build that line. So you're going this way, but black's coming in here. So I'd rather go. I would rather go this way instead of this way. Because which one blocks black?
Well, don't both of them. The first one blocks black.
Yeah, if I go here, black can reduce from here or here or something, right? But if I go here, then black has to reduce from over here. And you see he has his support's further away. So that's kind of what it's for. I mean, it's not that big of a... I guess it's not super big deal, but usually you want to build up from the edges, not from the center.
Right. Okay, similar to the bowl idea.
Yeah. It's basically the same thing. This is all good. This one's unnecessary because you already have a 1 point jump. So here, there is a cutting point, but you Atari and then 1 point jump.
Yeah.
So you fix one cut, fix the next cut. That's technically how you deal with that. But if you don't know that, it's okay as long as you're watching your cuts. That's more. I care more about you watching the cuts than you not defending a 1 point jump. This is all kind of small because this quadrant is not as big as this quadrant or even this quadrant.
I see.
So this one's the smallest. Yep, stay connected, watch your cuts.
Yep.
Block, that's all good. Okay, so he comes in. So Clossi approach, step 1, take the base. You already done that because you have a pincer right here. So you're at step 2, which is surround. So actually you do have to kick here because there is a base at the 3-3. So unsettle from the base and then pretty much surround. Like here. And push them towards thickness and you will make profit. So again, it's not likely you're supposed to get this entire quadrant. This is like 25% of the board. You're not supposed to get that. If it gets big enough, you can kill the invasions, but we're not worried about that right now. We kind of expect our opponent to come in, and all we're looking at is making a positive exchange rate. So let's say our opponent comes in right here and destroys this part, but we seal this part. And we seal this part and then get Sente to go maybe destroy another part or something, right? Okay. So that's the idea, is we're going to get half of it in Sente if our opponent comes in. That's how we deal with these for now. Later, we can start worrying about how to kill them, but right now, that's what we're doing. No, definitely. Definitely kill that. That's like 25% of the board. He didn't respond to that invasion. I would just kill it. Yeah, give it to that move. Okay, yeah, there we go. 1 point jump to 1 point jump wedges the shape. Because he has cutting points and you're solid.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so this is good to surround them, but when you're attacking them inside of a Moyo, you actually want to prevent them from going in the corner if they started on the edge, simply because there's a lot of eyes in the corner. Okay, this is a good cut. Okay. Okay, largest framework is now black, so you need to do something about it. Okay. Defending yours is very big, but I think black's is getting bigger, maybe. So maybe just go in. Or I don't know. Maybe this is too much. Yeah. Maybe too much. Just jump. Or reduce. Yeah.
One thing I don't feel very confident about is recognizing when there's enough space to do a successful invasion. Okay,
so we kind of have some simple rule of thumbs. We can invade until our opponent seals the escape routes. The invasions are approach a 4th line stone or the 3-3 point.
Okay.
The reason I was playing this one is because I was threatening the Knight's move. But that's not technically one of our beginner shapes, so you can ignore that. If you go here, I think that's perfectly fine. Simply because they either let you run away or you make eye space on the side.
Okay. Oh, that looks good.
Yeah, so those are your two options. However, this one might be a little late because of this stone. But like, let's imagine it like that. If you invade and he kicks and you run up, is he going to run you this way? Maybe, right? That you have to look at the escape routes. If your escape routes are good, then you can invade. If they're not, then maybe you waited too long. And then you just reduce. You reduce on the line of the influence, so you like draw a line, boom, and you just play on that line with maybe shoulder hit, cap, or just somewhere on that line, and you just reduce. But invasions, if you wanted to invade, the shape is approach a 4th line stone, and then either make eye space or run away.
Gotcha. Okay, that's helpful. Thanks.
Yep. Nobi stronger here because liberties.
Yeah.
Okay. Just little.
End up with some cutting points this way.
You're still okay, but we want to decrease the chances for mistakes. So
Mm-hmm.
having Ataris and cutting points is a little dangerous at this level. So yeah. Knight's moves are cuttable. So if you're using a Knight's move to go into your opponent's area, they can check the cut. And you always read the Knight's move cuts. You always read the Hane cuts. Always check it. Playing a Knight's move is useful for attacking, but not for reducing, because if you're reducing, that means your opponent controls the area, so getting cut there is very dangerous. So a diagonal would be much better here.
Gotcha.
Okay. Okay. So here, you're connected, everything's fine, so Atari, and then just walk in. Just keep walking in the border.
Okay.
So now you're in Yosei, actually. So,
Yeah.
second line Sente, no. First line Sente, yep. Doot, 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 doot. No, not here. Doot, doot, doot. Doot, 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 doot. Doot, 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 doot. Then push the border and Sente, doot, 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 doot. And then, I don't know what he does. He just lets you walk, blah, blah, blah. And you just walk for as long as you can. And then you push the other borders, you push the other borders. And you just do as much as you can in Sente. Much as you can in Sente, and then you play a big move.
Okay. Yeah, that looks a lot better.
Yeah. That's Yosei. And it's just recognizing that you're in Yosei when you're pushing the borders, and then just do as many Sente as you can.
So that seems like there's a lot riding on recognizing the appropriate moment to go to endgame. You get all the Sente
Yes, that is absolutely correct. Remember, the hint is when you find yourself pushing borders in the center, then probably you're in Yosei. Check the 4 quadrants and say, okay, if I'm pushing if it's just borders left, then it's probably Yosei.
Yeah.
All right, so I think that's good enough for here. So, very nice reading here.
Thank you.
This one is overplay, but the rest was really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, the rest was really good. Nice catch. All right. So I talked about a lot about the middle game, which was borders and cutting points, and we didn't really see a lot of bases yet. But do you have any questions about anything I talked about today? About how I approach making a decision on the Knight by 19?
Yeah. So one thing I might like to talk about a little more is identifying the largest framework and then figuring out the appropriate move to either expand yours or reduce the opponent's.
All right. So the appropriate move is just the shapes, like 1-point jumps for building mostly, but caps and shoulder hits are the shapes. Largest framework. So first off, what is the timing for when you should be looking for largest framework?
If you don't have any weaknesses and your opponent doesn't have any weaknesses, and you're past the opening?
Yes. What is the past the opening definition?
When there are no big moves left on the sides or corners?
So if there's a stone in the corner, so if there's a stone in like one of these points right here.
Yeah.
If there's a stone in like one of those points, then it's not an open corner. Okay?
Okay, right.
An open side is when you have no extension, no invasion, and no approach. That's an open side. When you have one of those, I would consider the side not open. So if you have one of those 3, then it's not an open side. So after open corners, then and open sides and weak groups, because you have to finish your Josekis because of weak groups. And once you have no weaknesses, then you go to middle game. Middle game is largest framework. So you look for the borders, so the line of influence. So you draw from one uninterrupted edge to another. One uninterrupted edge. This one's kind of interrupted, so I'd kind of like do that kind of thing. And you figure out which one's bigger. So in this case, maybe black's is bigger. But what you can notice is actually you can reduce while building. So if you can find a way to maybe reduce while building, like here, here, here. And if that's not good enough, you think it's not enough, then just go like cap, shoulder hit, cap, something like that, right? And just reduce. The The other option is, of course, to invade. If like you notice that it's your opponent's, you can invade. So how do you invade? Well, you can threaten to connect somewhere. You can approach a 4th line stone, or you can play a 3/3 invasion. Those are the double-digit Q invasions. Like you can learn how those work, and you kind of play whichever one you want to learn and toy around with. It's not really possible to judge which one's better than the other at the moment, because we have to learn how they work first before we can start judging which one's better. So I would say just play with both, reducing that line or playing on that line with the shoulder hits, caps, and 1-point jumps and stuff, and playing with invasions, and just go back and forth and figure out which ones you like at what timings. And then that comes with game reviews. Get game reviews, of course. You can use the Discord for that as well. And then learn how the follow-ups work and learn how the variations work, and that will kind of give you an idea of how they play out, and then you can learn which one's better for what situation. Okay. So, does that kind of make sense?
Yeah.
All right. Do you have any other questions?
Nothing pressing.
All right, so here I just sent you my notes on Discord, the notes from this lesson. So my advice is, of course, play games. Keep doing what you're doing. The books, the videos, the Go problems, that's all super important. Keep doing that. And those are my notes. And just right now, gain experience, just focus on defense and big moves. Defense and big moves. And do that until like 16Q, 15Q. My advice is to try to play a minimum of 10 ranked games a week, if you can.
Okay.
Ranked games against your level, like plus or minus 2 or 3. I think plus or minus 3 is okay. But ranked games around your level. And just gain experience, figure out where your rank falls, and just keep practicing. Utilize the Discord for game reviews. Utilize my Twitch for game reviews. And then when the next lesson happens, we'll make it happen and see where we're at.
Okay, sounds great.
Awesome. Do you have any other questions?
One other question, it's kind of been on my mind, is that I don't have a sense of when it's useful to cut. I'm getting a little bit better at reading when I need to defend it.
Cutting your opponent is attacking. I wouldn't worry about that until 15Q.
Okay.
Right now, it's more important that you don't get cut.
Okay.
Because the cutting, there's a few pitfalls that you need to look out for. 1, don't cut with weakness. 2, don't cut when you're in an area that your opponent controls. And once you rule out those 2 options, if you're strong and you control the area, and then you can cut. And 3, of course, you have to read out the cut, make sure it's an actual cut, not a net or a ladder or something like that. But if you don't know your own cuts and your own weaknesses, then you can very easily get caught up in your opponent's cuts and have bad timings and just go wild and you end up dying. And that's just not good. So I wouldn't worry about it until you understand your own cuts and your own weaknesses first, and then you can look for timings to do these things. That's why we wait until like 16Q, 15Q. We don't worry about our opponent's cuts. The only exception being if they get cut if they go in your area and there's an obvious cut to just kill something on the side, then it's fine. Like if they go right here, then you can just kill that. That's fine. Other than that, like I wouldn't be trying to cut right here. I wouldn't be trying to cut like right here or right here. I wouldn't worry about any of that right now. Just focus on learning defense first, and we can learn offense after we get defense down. Because I think that's the safest order to learn. Because while cuts are powerful, it's also very easy to get multiple weak groups when you're trying to cut your opponent if you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
One more. So one aspect of defense that I'm not very confident about is recognizing when I have enough space to live. Again, we're like in a corner or an edge. Do you have any tips or tricks for how to practice that?
1 stone jumps 2, and 2 stones jump 3. Okay. So when you're like this, and they play here, you need to make a base. Okay, and then you're fine. When they get a stone on both sides of you, then you want a 1-point jump. And then that's fine. And then you'll learn more ins and outs. As the more you play, the more variations you play out with these shapes, the more you'll know about it. And then, of course, you can bring me certain positions, and that's fine too. But these are the rules of thumb. If they get on one side, you need a base on the other. 1 stone jumps 2, 2 stones, jumps 3. And if they have a stone on both sides, then you want to 1-point jump that single stone. And if it's like 1 stone jumps 2 and they have a stone on both sides, then you jump and jump from the single stones, and it's pretty okay. That's the rule of thumb starting out. You will learn more as you get stronger, but just start with that. Okay. With the star point, this shape is okay. You can see that 1 stone jumps 2, and then black is also okay. The exception being is if your opponent plays here, you do want this move. Mm-hmm. And if your opponent plays like this one, and you block or whatever, you just want that Tiger's Mouth for life. And that's how that shape works. As these come up, we'll talk more about them. There's also, we can just jump right here. That's also fine. Okay. So that's kind of the rules of thumb. Another kind of rule of thumb is if it's something like this, if you have 2 options for your base, then it's probably okay. It's kind of like also if you play on your opponent's side, you play like a wedge like this. If you have 2 options, then you can ignore. Yeah, you can ignore until they take one of those options. You're okay, but as long as you have 2 options for a base, you can ignore. Mm-hmm. But again, understanding what a base is. That's how you understand if something's safe or not, is you understand that base. 1 jumps 2, 2 jumps 3, and you start learning those as you go. You'll add on more shapes as you get more experience and gain stronger, but start with those and figure those out, and then you can learn more as you get stronger. Okay. Any other questions?
No, right now.
Awesome. So yeah, watch that beginner lecture series. I think that also talks about bases a little bit and the life and death in there as well. Yeah, and hopefully you found this lesson helpful. And yeah, thanks for signing up. And I will see you when I see you.
Sure. Thanks a lot. This was very helpful.
Awesome. Have a good one.
You too. Bye.